Hi, I'm Bob Spinozzi, and welcome to Small Town. Today we're going to look back at some of the changes that have taken place in Littleton during the last 50, 60 years, maybe even a little bit before that. Joining me on today's show is Littleton Town Clerk Diane Crory. I'm also going to include some clips from a previous show I did with former Littleton Historical Society Chairman David Whitcomb and Chairman of the 2014 Tercentennial Committee and former selectman for many, many years, Jack Holmer. Now, before we get to Littleton, I want to mention some of the innovations in this century that have changed the way we live. For instance, a visit inside a bank has become infrequent for many of us and not really necessary for others. We have other options from the ATM to online and mobile banking. In our vehicles, GPS has replaced that old Rand McNally map that used to be in the glove compartment. Another innovation that we can't do without is the smartphone. We can take pictures, text, pay for things, watch video, listen to music, and just do many of the functions of a computer. I almost forgot. It's also a telephone. Now, beginning in March 2020, one change that really began to accelerate was that working didn't necessarily mean heading into the office. But now with the virus mostly in check, some employees have returned to working in the office, others are on a hybrid schedule, and some will now work mainly from home. So before we talk about the changes that have taken place in Littleton, I want to direct your attention to two small businesses. They started in Littleton and went on to become nationally prominent. Diane, thanks so much for being with me.
Thanks for having me.
And of course, I think you know, I was referring to Cobb's Poultry and what came to be known as Very Fine Juice. Now, several years ago, I spoke to David Whitcomb, who at that time was president of the Littleton Historical Society, and he gave us a little history on these two great companies. We have to just spend a couple of minutes, we have a few minutes left, we have to talk a little bit about two companies that started in Littleton that became worldwide companies. I'm talking about Very Fine, and I'm talking about, well, right now it happens to be called Tyson Foods, but when we knew it, it was called Cobb Poultry. And 1916, I believe this
1916, Robert Cobb came to town, and he established this business of raising chickens and chicks, and developing new and better strains of chicks through breeding. Was Cobb's Breeding Corporation, I believe, was one of the names for the company through the years. And they evolved into one of the finest scientific companies with regard to little old ordinary chicken, which we take kind of for granted when we get wings down at Yangtze River. But so many changes, good changes, took place in the food industry through that one company. And then in later years, Upjohn Pharmaceuticals bought them, and then from there Tyson Foods bought them, and now they're part of one of the largest.
Well, they're part of Tyson now.
Tyson
yeah,
now.
Yeah. There were some other
the
mergers
country.
and acquisitions
Right,
before
along
that.
the way. But the pharmaceuticals company bought them, Upjohn, because of the scientific research that was going on. They tapped into that end of it. So it was not just a little old chicken farmer down at the end of Cobb Lane. I mean, they really, and still are, and they've come a long way.
And now, Very Fine, actually, they moved into Littleton from Somerville, making vinegar at the time. Right. 1940s, early 40s?
Even earlier than that,
Yeah.
around 1930 or so, they first came.
And then, of course, again, with other mergers, they were bought out by Kraft. Very Fine was bought out by Kraft Food.
Then Sunny Delight.
And now there's something else going on.
Yeah. And at the present time, they had not, Sunny Delight owned the properties. They were trying to sell them. And whatever the ins and outs of taxing is, they sold all of the properties we know at the depot to a broker on December 31st last year for whatever accounting reasons. So now it's being brokered, and hopefully they'll come up with a good buyer. Because it's not a good state-of-the-art plant. And it's just that the Sunny Delight moved on to different inventories, different target markets, words that we old farmers don't even think about. But it's how they do business today.
So, growing up in town, you must have gone to the little store, the
Yes.
retail store there.
Yes, I did. Yep. So, a couple of the stores, very fine in Cobb's, we were talking about.
Yeah.
Right? And so, the little store on Golden Street.
Very fine, yeah.
Very fine. They had a retail store there that you could buy dented cans. And they were pretty cheap back then, probably about 20 cents maybe.
You could buy
can.
dentist. I remember going there. I bought a case of something. Let's call it grape juice.
Yep.
But it was labeled grapefruit juice.
You
So
never-
that was a dime a can
Yeah.
for a case.
You never knew what you were getting though inside. It was a mystery inside.
It's a lot of fun.
Yes.
And yeah, and then Cobb's Course now, where they were off of Route 119.
Yes.
There's housing there now. so,
Absolutely.
yeah.
Beautiful houses down there. Beautiful houses. So, yeah, two of them, you know, two beautiful stores, two beautiful companies that grew internationally. Cobb's was across the sea and came over here, and we were lucky enough to have it right here in town.
Yeah.
They grew so large. They were actually in the Midwest as well. I'm not sure where, but I know it was in the Midwest.
Yeah, well,
somewhere.
they were bought out. They wound
Yeah.
up in the Midwest.
Yeah.
I believe in Arkansas, actually.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you're right.
All right, now, right now, I want to briefly go back to the 1950s and tell you that Kimball's had more than a little competition from a dairy and ice cream business in Littleton that also sported 2 swimming pools. David and Jack describe. David, I mentioned milk in the system. And
Yes,
of course,
milk in the system.
I was referring to Fred Herbie's Dairy,
Absolutely.
and there's a story that revolves around bottle caps. So why don't you tell the folks about that?
Well, the bottle cap story is pretty simple. Fred Herbie established his dairy and built a brand new state-of-the-art dairy in 1950 along there where Bob Moran's Toyota dealership is now. But once he got that established, he built 2 pools for the use of all the townspeople, a young people's pool and then an older one dedicated to adults. And the admission was either 25 cents or you could save up bottle caps and get in for nothing, so to speak.
Now, the caps are each worth a certain amount of money.
I think they were worth a nickel.
Okay.
So 5 would get you
Sure,
25,
for an admission.
10 would get you 50, on like that. Then he also came along with a terrific ice cream stand and very, very good quality ice cream, along with competing with Erickson and Kimball. So they all were right in there, good stead. But it was a nice place, right in town. You know, you just drive up to it and walk right there. Local kids working there. It was all very good.
So, Diane, you were telling me you grew up in Littleton and you never went to the Herbie swimming pools.
Never did.
You had right down the street in your neighborhood a big pool.
Absolutely. Long Lake. It was absolutely gorgeous. Blue as blue could be. And it was a beautiful long lake. You could go out there. And we actually used to go skiing at Long Lake.
Wow.
Yeah, it was beautiful. That's when you could put motorboats on Long Lake. And
Yeah.
yeah, it was beautiful.
And you know, we know the story of, is it Warren Smadbeck who developed
Yes.
Long Lake, the housing on Long Lake. And part of that, of course, was beautiful clubhouse that you
Yes.
told me you remembered.
Yes, so there was 2 clubhouses, one which we called it Clubhouse Hill. So many people don't know what that was, but and the big hill that is along Lake Shore, and it goes up the hill at the very top, it was a big clubhouse. There was also a clubhouse right on Long Lake. So there was 2 different ones, and both of them used to house dances. And so many people that lived along Long Lake were able to go to the dances. The ones at the top of the hill were for the older kids, and the one at Long Lake.
So
was
were
for
they
the younger.
exclusively for the neighborhood?
Yeah, the one at the top of the hill, yes, and the one at the lake was for the younger people.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
So anyway, but then Of course, the Herbie's business left, and the property was converted to office space, and also
There was a theater there?
There was a twin cinema.
Yes, there was a theater there for quite some time, and then they sold out, and now we know that there's a big car dealership there.
Right. But some of the original businesses were, Aubuchon's had moved from the corner of 2A
Yes.
and 2A and 110,
Yep.
and they moved there. North Middlesex Savings Bank had a property there. There was a dental office upstairs. I know there was a restaurant in there too somewhere.
Yes, there was also a smaller car dealership there that used to do
There was
auto
a Ford
body.
dealership
Yep.
to the left,
Left,
facing
yes.
Toyota right now.
Yes.
It was to the left of it.
Yes.
And not to get ahead of ourselves, but I believe also down at 119 and where Adams Street comes in, there was an old Chrysler dealership
Yes.
there as well.
The Dunn family actually owned that.
Okay, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
They're still in town.
Yeah, they are.
Yes. Yep. Long family history. Yes.
Now, restaurants. We love restaurants. We have several at the Point. But here's a snapshot of what Littleton had to offer in the 1950s and 60s. Now, as we continue, I want to paint a picture of Littleton in the 50s and 60s and before that. So let's continue, and we're going to jump over to the restaurants that were on the stretch. We had the Monarch and Dominic's, the Wayside Grill, Maples Luncheon. Now, you guys can jump in right now because you were there, and you especially. Start out with the Ark.
We had the Littleton Diner, which was just before you would come to Subway today. It was in where Plants Unlimited was. And it was a 1924 Worcester dining car, and it stayed in business until about 1963. And the Monarch Diner stayed alive another 10 years till 1973.
And that was another one that was manufactured in Worcester as well.
Yeah, absolutely. That was that's Worcester dining car number 777, and we have the floor plan for it with all the changes.
Is there anything he doesn't?
No. The friend of Mr. Guzman that wrote the good book on diners came in, and his father owned this diner at one time, so he gave us a lot of information.
Okay.
So it's very easy to crib, you know. But we had the Cosiam at the depot. We had the country-style pizza.
Tell us about the
down
Ark.
there. The Ark. Well, the Ark should have had wheels from the beginning. But Johnny Sargent, our old first police chief, he got into a little bit of everything, driving a Moxie vehicle and whatnot. But he built the Ark right out front of his house, just there on Robinson Road, right where the gazebo sat for a few years for the consignment shop or something. And he built it as a little ice cream shop. And it had the cute figurines of the animals and whatnot. And in 1938, Emma Yap bought the structure from him, and she owned a piece of land down the end of Shaker Lane, so she moved it down there. And her two daughters, Helen and Esther, ran the little coffee shop in the summertime for extra money for school. Then they went to school, and Emma decided, well, that's enough of that. So she moved it to some other property she had over on Beach Drive, and she set it up there. It was a residence for a short time, and then it was taken down, and a house was built there that belonged to Lottie Holman, a long-term town clerk. So that structure actually is still in existence in the back of the utility shop of the fellow that built a house across the street from where it first was sited on Beach. And so there's a little bit of it still there.
It's still there.
Yeah.
Now, you both remember Dominic's.
Yes.
Dominic's was up, we'll talk about digital and the IBM property
Yeah,
later.
where the Yangtze River
But
is.
yeah,
That's it.
so-
Yeah.
So Dominic's was a pretty good.
Oh, it was
yeah,
a great
it was great.
restaurant, great. Family-owned, run, three generations. After a while,
Yeah,
all
yeah.
went through
Yeah,
there,
the
from the
Geraces,
40s,
yeah.
right up through.
And
Great
then
place.
coming down 2A, going towards Air, we had the Wayside Grill and the little luncheonette called the Maples. I think the Banks family may have run that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was Percy and Margaret Banks ran it, along with nieces and nephews. I think an uncle was in on it too. They came from upstate New York in the late 30s and gravitated there. There was a nice small gas station. The town was dotted with gas stations at the time, and they had a nice indoor, not really a restaurant, but it was more for sandwiches and light snacks and things like that.
Diane, these restaurants go back quite a ways. The Wayside Grill was mentioned, and
Yes.
you know a little bit something about that.
I know a little bit about it. My mother-in-law actually worked there. I was never allowed down at the Wayside because it was the opposite side of the town, and but it was a great restaurant, and many people frequented down there. It was right next to what is now the help me here.
What, the car wash is
Car
there
wash,
now, yeah.
yes, and also the veterinarian is there. So right there, it was very easy to get to, and a lot of people really enjoyed the food there.
Most of the restaurants that Jack and David talked about were, I think, before your time anyway. So,
A couple years.
do you remember the Monarch at all?
I do.
That's the one I hear the
yes.
most.
Yeah, the one at the Common.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah, the Monarch Diner. Yeah, you were able to walk. I was able to walk
Right.
down to that one because.
And that's about where the Shell station is. So, yeah. So, anyway, Diane, Donnellan's Plaza opened in 1964, I believe. Were you old enough that you might remember if it was a grand opening?
I was a little bit young. I was about 9, so I don't really remember.
But your mother
it.
didn't take you by the hand and put you
Probably. She probably brought me
to the new
yeah.
supermarket.
Yes, yeah.
New supermarket, new apothecary. There was a 5 and Dime there, I believe.
Yeah, so the Five and Dime was the first store, and then Donnellan's, and then
The Rolling Pin
Bakery, and then there was
Jay's
a
Apothecary might have been
apothecary.
after that.
Yeah, and then at one point there was a
There was a sub shop near
Cleaners.
the end too at one point, wasn't
yes,
there?
there was a sub shop. There was a Cleaners, package store. They were all in
Yeah.
there.
And then right next to that was Moore's Cash and Carry, where Hunter Appliance is now.
Yes. Yeah.
So that was a big deal back then.
There
There
was.
weren't any shopping plazas or facilities in Westford, I know that. Nothing in Air, nothing in Groton.
And Donnellan's used to host square dances in the parking lot. Do you remember that?
Well, I remember when I moved to town, as you're pulling out of the Donnellan's parking lot, there was an ice maker machine and a pay phone right there. And when we first moved to Littleton, after the down payment, we didn't have money for a refrigerator. The seller took the refrigerator. So we had a little cooler, and we would stop there after work, 50 cents, get ice, and just use that. So.
Yeah. Not too many
So-
places have telephone booths anymore, so that's a infrequent thing that you see anymore.
No.
So,
Or payphone.
or people.
Yeah.
Right.
So next to Donnellan's was the egg receiving station. And Jack has a Mischief Night story to tell us about that.
The egg receiving station, I was in the real estate business at that point, and 2 gentlemen came in, nice guys, and they came in and said, you know, we're interested in doing something, will you join us? And put this thing together. So we did. We put it together and bought the business from Ollie Reeves. You know, and I shouldn't say bought the business. Excuse me, bought the building from Ollie Reeves. We didn't go with the egg receiving station, but the egg receiving station. You mentioned that, and you say it's an interesting story. I was a selectman at a time here in town. And we had to go to Ollie one time and say, would you please stop selling eggs at a discount on Halloween to the kids? He used to parade out the eggs, and the kids would line up going in there.
Oh, my God.
Those were the days, you know, you don't see it today, thank goodness. But those were the days where Halloween was pretty scary around here.
Mischief.
Were you waiting in that line?
Mischief.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, he was
Sure.
he was the biggest
Tougher
part.
front of the line?
He was the
Right in the
biggest
front of the
part of
line.
it. He was the biggest part of it. No, but it was an interesting place. And Donlan's headquarters is now,
Now
and-
there, yeah,
on the
yeah.
in the second
Yeah.
floor in that building. But no, that egg receiving station was quite a building.
Okay, Diane, do you want to fess up, or we won't? You're the town clerk, so maybe we shouldn't even bring it up.
We won't bring it up.
But I know when you were growing up, kids your age were buying eggs there for mischief night, and but
Yeah.
that was quite something.
Yeah, that was there for quite a while. You could go and buy eggs there for, back then, I think eggs were 50 cents a dozen, maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah, and our former tax collector, Rebecca Quinn, actually worked there for many years.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then across the street from Donlan's and the egg receiving station, Banks Automotive. Earl, he opened there in 1959. I remember him telling me about it. He also had a hunting and fishing shop attached to the garage at the time. Which was-
Interesting. Didn't
yeah.
know that.
Yeah.
And
In fact, his
daughter.
daughter Patty told me when she was growing up, she used to go there and put things on the shelves and organize things. And,
Oh.
Yeah,
That's great.
it really is.
Didn't know that.
I love these old stories. I really
Yeah.
do.
It's very interesting. I never knew that.
Yeah.
And it's still there. Banks Automotive is still there.
Now, speaking of banks, these were our original lending institutions in town. Bank of America is where Shawmut and Harvard Trust used to be. Citizens was formerly the Cooperative Bank of Concord. Northern Bank and Trust was originally First Federal. Main Street was North Middlesex Savings. And since about 2000, somewhere in there, we've added Middlesex Savings and Digital Credit Union. You know, a couple of friends commented to me driving through Littleton, seeing all these banks. Boy, you people in Littleton have a lot of money.
I think we've had.
So I'm not sure about that, but yeah.
we do have a lot of banks.
we do.
In a
For
very
a
short
small
span.
stretch like that?
Yes, very small span. And then we have another one right down by Donlan's. There's another bank right past there, on the right-hand side at the Dunkin' Donuts.
Well, right, that's
Another drive-through.
that's the Main Street Bank.
Oh, the Main
Yeah,
Street.
the Main Street
okay.
Bank, yeah.
Yeah, it's just keeps going
Yeah,
and going.
yeah, no, they, North Middlesex Savings were bought out by Main Street,
Yeah, it's
so, yeah.
It's like, yeah. Yeah, it's amazing how many banks we have, and people frequent them all the time, so it's not like they're not busy.
They're doing well, otherwise they
Yeah.
wouldn't be there, sure.
Right. Yeah,
So,
yeah, and so now they've moved, some of them moved from there down to the Point, and then across
Credit
on
union's there
Russell,
now, sure.
Russell Street. We have one now down on Russell Street, so,
that's right, I forgot about that one.
yeah. So,
Oh.
they haven't moved out of town, they've stayed in town, they've just moved their locations, so.
Okay, now, continuing with the 70s, there were other business buildings off of 119 and 2A 110. We just named the banks. A few of the other ones include, you're going to have to help me here. The country store was a big deal, a little bit further down on 2A. Also had penny candy in there.
They
Do you
did.
have recollections of that?
I do. They actually used to have these big brown barrels which held pickles.
The pickles, I've heard that one too,
Pickles,
yeah.
Yeah, it was a great little store with the old wooden floors that when you walk on them they would creak, and it was really, and they'd have the old glass that you could look in, you'd stick your nose right on the glass, you'd see
Was
the
it
old
primarily an antique store?
kids. Yeah, it was like a kind of an antique store, but it was mostly penny candy. Yeah, yeah, it was a neat little store. Yeah, kids would always be in there, and yeah, it was
And of course, that's where Hunter Appliance
moved to, yeah.
moved to after
Yeah.
the country store. Moving back up toward the center, though, let's get to the corner of the what's the name of the building? It's escaping me right now. The Conan Houghton building.
Oh, yes, yep,
And Aubuchon's was on the corner.
yes,
Then we had a health food store,
yes. With a-
sub shop,
Yep, there's a bookstore there now.
bookstores on the corner now. Before that, there was a furniture store.
Yes.
But getting back to where Electronic Plus is now, there were two.
Geppetto's toy store was there, which
Toy
they used
store.
To, yes, they used to make toys downstairs, put them together. Some of them were, the Laytons used to work there, and they have a little workshop downstairs, bring all the toys upstairs, and at Christmas time there was always a party for the children. Santa would come and visit and give out the toys that were being made in Geppetto's workshop.
I think Mark Crory told me that he bought a record or two occasionally next door or part of Geppetto's.
So there was a record store, and there is a record store there right
Now,
next
yeah.
now. But yes, at one point there was records there as well. Yeah.
Yeah. And I want to move down. I want to mention Dave Erickson, the wood stove shop. He bought that. We're down at the depot now, of course. He bought that in 1977, I believe. But it's now recognized across the country. He sells stuff all over the country.
Yeah. He refurbishes stoves and things like that from there. I mean, he goes wherever to fix old stoves and wood stoves, and he has parts there that you can't find
No, you
anywhere.
can't, no.
And the stoves that he fixes last forever. People say that he's an
Yeah.
amazing man. The work that he does is just incredible.
He has one of his stoves that's on display. It's not functional, but it's on display at Kimball's.
Really?
Yeah. So,
Wow.
something.
Yeah. Amazing the work he does.
Now, I want to mention about this time in the mid-1970s, Route 495 was becoming a major force. It would be a major contributor to the enormous growth that we're all seeing today. And I want to go back before 495. You were old enough, I think, to remember 110 was the big road out here
Yes.
before 110.
Yep.
And it was 63 miles long. I had to look this up. And it ran from Salisbury Beach to West Boylston. So if you were to want to go to the beach on the ocean, you would have to take 110,
110.
obviously, to Salisbury Beach.
A lot of people still go the old way, go the 110, because they don't want to go on 495.
Well, I'm one of those people on occasion. But before your twin cinemas, you probably had to go to Lowell to go to the movies.
Right. Chelmsford,
You had the Chelmsford Drive-In,
Drive-In, yep.
and you had the Boxborough Drive-In.
Yep.
But I think a pure movie theater was probably in Lowell.
Lowell, yes, yeah.
So
But before 495, so the reason we have Mill Road on two parts of Littleton is because Mill Road used to go straight across before 495 was built.
right.
So that's why Mill Road is on two parts of Littleton, because it went straight across.
Right. There's another road too off of 110, just before you get into Westford, between the medical office and there's a liquor store daycare
Yes.
in Westford.
Yep.
There's a road right there that was cut off as well.
Ah,
Yeah. So, but anyway, so you do remember that, and
somewhat,
I still use it though, right?
yeah.
Dan, let's get to the 1980s.
Okay.
1982 population is 7,000. Digital moves in, starting with a building on Foster Street. Then in 1983-84, Digital was getting ready to build an office park on King Street. Jack was hired on a handshake now to move some houses. Okay, so now we're gonna, there was some development in the 70s and 80s, but really the big thing going on was digital coming into town, and there some homes that had to be moved, and you guys can talk about that for a couple of
You can
minutes.
talk definitely about that one, Jack. You were in it
Yeah,
from the get-go.
83.
You did the movie.
83 and 83 and 84. It was quite a move. The digital came to me and asked me to put together, because I was in the real estate business, put together this parcel of land and do it just as well as I could. So there were 7 or 8 homes on the land, and I sort of looked at them and said, "There's 5 of those that are good. There's nothing wrong with them." And if you're going to demolish them all, that's a big cost to you. To looking at digital now, that's a big cost to you, and we're wasting 5 good homes. What if I move them? And so we talked about a price, and digital came to me and said, "Let's just do the project, then we'll decide what the price is at the end of it." Would anybody do business that way today?
Wow.
That's what Neil Hannon, I can always remember Neil Hannon, came to me and said, that we'll decide at the end to see how you do. Well, I didn't do very well, monetarily. Yes, we got the houses moved on, but the state was absolutely unbelievable. They made us move one in December as a test house. It was, as I call it, the Los Spinato house. It was the one just to this side, to the west of
Okay,
Dominic's.
tell the folks how long the move was. Where did the houses go?
The houses went onto basically New Estate
Jack,
Road.
I mean.
Yeah, they went basically onto New Estate Road, but we couldn't go up New Estate Road because of the trees. So we had to go down into Sandbell. It was Sandbell at that point. Way around, make a road up the banking to the back of Checkerberry Lane, which is Checkerberry now. We had to, and we did it, and we moved those houses. The second group out, well, let me get back to the first house they made us move in December.
This is December now, okay.
Now, you remember all the wires, telephone wires, fire, the fire alarm, electric, everything else had to be moved. Now, where the state made us do it basically twice, to do the test first, this had to be done twice. It was expensive. Okay, it was expensive, but we got the first house, the highest one, the Los Spinato house, as I call it, and we got that one moved, and then we're all set to move the remaining 4. And the morning dawns, and they forecast snow. So we've got the crew that came out of New Hampshire, Hooksett, New Hampshire, the crew, Dana Wood Moving, building movers. We've got them coming down here, and the state says you can't go today. We have a threat of snow. Well, the snow never happened. So the third try, we finally moved the houses. And we had to be off the road by 4 o'clock. That was it. Otherwise, I don't know what would have happened, but that was it. We had to be off the road by 4. Believe it or not, 8 flat tires on the trucks moving these houses, because these houses had sat on these trucks for a while, and on these tires now. 8 flat tires. We made it not with any time to spare. We were 7 minutes late. 7 minutes late getting the last one down the hill into Sandbell.
You watched this.
Oh yeah.
I did. I was working in Westford, fortunately, at the time. I was well aware. I was keeping track of it all. And I took a long lunch hour and my camera, and I got some good pictures. And as well, Jack has given to the society, the Historical Society, all of the paper clippings and pictures. And we have some independent photographs, beautiful color photographs of all the houses in the move coming down through the common. Just fantastic.
Awesome.
It was, yeah. It was quite a move. It was
And all on a handshake.
All on a handshake.
Yes.
All
Old-fashioned way.
on a handshake. Yeah.
1985, Indian Hill Music moved from Groton into a building on King Street. And in 2001, they expanded with their new recital hall. Other notable 1980s developments In 1987, Littleton Light and Water moved to a new operation on Center Street, new operation center rather, on Air Road, along with the Department of Public Works. In 1989, the Ribbonheur Library moved from the Houghton Memorial Building on Roger Street to Shattuck Street. Did you use the old library much?
I did. That was a beautiful building. Beautiful building.
Really beautiful.
The glass floor, to be able to look down below and just, it was an amazing building to be able to sit there. You used to go there for a lot of research back in the day when you had to actually sit and read a book and go through the old material to do research back then.
When I first moved into town, I would go down there at night occasionally for just to take out a couple of books. But they had a reading room centered around the fireplace downstairs.
Yes. That room is beautiful.
It is.
Absolutely beautiful. And they've kept it so well, and
So Historical Society has really
Yes.
done a great job
They have.
with that. In fact, we're talking about that right now. 1990, the Historical Society moved into the old library building on Roger Street. 1996, town offices moved from Foster Street to Shattuck Street, and at the same time, the fire department occupies the Foster Street building they'd shared with town offices. By 1996, Digital now employs 2,000 between their King and Taylor Street locations. Then in a series of acquisitions, in 1998, Compaq acquires Digital, and not too long after that, Compaq merges with Hewlett-Packard. But let's get back to the old town hall and how cramped it was.
very cramped. So we think that this building is cramped. That building was the first floor. As you walked in to the right-hand side, that first office was the town clerk tax collector, and they literally had boxes on top of boxes stacked up in every part of that office, and that's where all of the, everything that they had for vital statistics and everything was in there. And upstairs was the planning and the building, and I mean they had 4 or 5 offices in one office. It was
In
crazy.
1988, 89, I was one of the assessors in town, and we would have our nightly meetings in the area that you described downstairs, where you would pay taxes in the back,
Yes.
where all those boxes were.
Oh my gosh, I don't know how they
was so-
survived it.
Yeah. And, for the folks who don't know this, in 1943, we had a beautiful town hall that burned down from an electrical fire.
Yeah.
And so they put this other town hall up, probably in a bit of a hurry, but, we had to have something to replace the old one.
Right.
So,
Yeah. I mean, we don't know how lucky we are, to have this building, which was an old school,
to have it available, sure.
to have it available,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
To have,
Yeah.
be able to come over here from what we had and to come here. We have a little more space, but
Yeah. No, in fact, we're here right now
Yeah.
in the old school, the town offices. And but we're going to move along. We're going to move along. 2002, the population in Littleton was 8,200. And that same year, the new high school on King Street is dedicated. 2005, Hewlett-Packard shuts down on King Street and Taylor Street remains open. 2006, the new middle school opens on Russell Street at the site of the old high school. Let's talk about that old high school. I mean, you have great memories there.
I do. I have absolutely, I went there for all 4 years. It was great. We never saw any issues with it going to school there, but obviously it was, you outgrew it. It really needed to be renovated and needed to be upgraded, but beautiful memories.
Yeah, it got to the point where it really couldn't be salvaged any longer.
No.
I believe was it built in the late 1950s?
Yes.
I think everything was a little over 50 years old by the time they built the new high school.
Yep, and the people, when they went to school there, I mean, at least grades 7 through 12 were going to school there.
Correct.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so,
Yeah.
but the classroom sizes were a lot smaller than they are now, much smaller.
Okay, in 2009, IBM moves into the old deck building. And however, earlier this year, IBM did have to leave Littleton and they relocated to Cross Point in Lowell. Also that year, the Littleton Police moved from Foster Street to their new headquarters building on Great Road at the site of the former Stan's Big Acres farm stand. You remember the sign. If you can't stop, wave. 2010, population is nearing 9,000. A culvert on 119 collapses, creating an enormous traffic nightmare for several weeks. And also, Diane Crory is inducted into the Littleton Sports Hall of Fame. So, you were obviously lights out in field hockey. You played another couple of other sports.
Basketball, yes, yeah. I enjoyed sports, and it kept me motivated and kept me keeping my grades up, and kept me all around, and had great coaches, Arthur Silver and Gene McManus, and great other athletes with me that kept me going, and yeah, it was a great time in my life, and yeah, we enjoyed it.
And you've kept your field hockey presence now, been a coach for many, many years here.
Yeah, came back, I coached earlier in the late 70s, early 80s, left for a while to raise my family, and came back in 1995, and been coaching ever since.
Yeah. Very modest person over here, so we're not, she's incredible accomplishments. 2013, new train station is opened on Foster Street. Littleton Tigers win the Division VI Super Bowl at Gillette Stadium. In 2014, we celebrated our 300th anniversary, Diane. Your husband, Michael, was on the committee.
Yes.
You were involved quite a bit, too. I was kind of in the background. I contributed a little bit, but there's something.
Yeah, it was probably one of the hottest, for the parade it was really hot, but that year was an amazing year. We put together a lot of events to really contribute everything for 300 years for this town. It was a lot of work went into it to celebrate Littleton. We look back 50 years prior to everything that went.
Tell us about that. That didn't work out so well.
So we had a time capsule that we opened up, and when we opened it up, it had damaged a lot of what was in there, but it took us probably 3 months to restore a lot of what had been damaged, but we got a lot of it back to a decent condition so that we could actually read a lot of what had been put in there, which was, we were a little bit nervous that we wouldn't be able to get it back, but we did get a lot of it back. But it was a tribute to the hard work of everybody that.
And as you walk into the town hall entrance,
Yes.
there's a big case, memorabilia case in front of
Yes.
it. What's in there exactly?
So we have the new time capsule that hopefully will be opened 50 years in 64, I'm sorry. Gotta do my math in my head.
We're already 7 years
Yeah.
into this thing.
Yeah, and hopefully everybody will be able to look and see what we put in there back then, and
Yeah.
I'm not so sure I'll be there. But hopefully my children or grandchildren will be able
They'll enjoy it.
to enjoy it, yes.
Okay. Now, in the last few years, other notable things that happened in town include construction of a new track and athletic field. Additions to the Veterans Memorial were constructed at the Common. And in 2018, the new firehouse was dedicated. Looks like September-ish
Yes, they're saying
for the new library.
they're hoping to be done in September, which will be a little bit ahead of schedule, which will be nice. And the library, a lot of people, it's funny because a lot of people don't realize that there's actually, the library is what's out back.
Yeah.
So,
That's the only thing I don't like about it is we can't show off that beautiful new building.
right. Yeah. Yeah, so people that come to Town Hall know that that's what it is. It's a library that's out back there. Because a lot of people say, what are you building out back there? It's the new library, people.
Now, there's no additional parking that's going to be put in?
There is not.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's going to be tough. Yeah, parking will be the one issue. But
Well, that's true
yeah,
almost everywhere you
Everywhere we
go.
go,
So, anyway.
we'll figure it out.
I want to conclude with the point and give you a little insight on its development by playing a portion of an interview I had in 2016 with developer Sam Park. Right. It's just a refreshing mix
Yeah.
of the destination, combining shops, restaurants, the O'Neill Cinema, Courtyard by Marriott, Market Basket, office space, and it's not dominated by retail that you see so typically.
We tried to keep it different from a typical strip center or a mall. There's a lot of, in New England, what we've noticed is the need to create a 24-hour, or I would only a day and nighttime use for the property. A mix of uses we think are better and more sustainable, especially in a location like Littleton. There are a lot of centers that have high-end shops, and the brick and mortar tends to be be under pressure today with other online retailing. What we think is really exciting about it is if you create a place which has more than just stores, but has restaurants, has entertainment, has places people can congregate, it becomes like a meeting place. And so that necessitates different uses. So we're looking for office tenants, for which we've started construction of. For example, if you drive up there now, you'll see one of the buildings. We intentionally focused first on the restaurants, which include a combination of great local purveyors, fine food. So it's pretty exciting.
Right, yeah, and on the restaurants, it's a great different selection getting away from the national chains.
Yes, that was intentional. We were approached by just about every national chain looking to place something here. Our intention was to create something slightly different that could appeal to both residents and the employees in the area. So we opted for things like.
Well, I have the mix here.
Sure.
The Tavern in the Square.
Yeah.
Those are the folks that also have one in Lexington?
We have Great Road Kitchen.
That's the one in Lexington.
The gentleman who owns Great Road Kitchen is from Groton. He has run some great restaurants. He wanted to create a chef-centric restaurant that catered to fine seafood, created a really good atmosphere, a nice, comfortable atmosphere with, it'll have a oyster raw bar, steaks and seafood. And we're really excited about it. It should be opening relatively soon. I think within the next 3 weeks, that restaurant will have its sort of soft opening. We also brought in Tavern on the Square.
Yeah.
Tavern on the Square is from Cambridge. It's they have them in Boston and a few other places.
They started in Central Square, I believe.
They
Was
did.
their first one.
And it's a great, we think it's a better alternative than some of the beer pubs that have gone national.
Now, I noticed driving through there the other day that there's a sign for Tavern on the Square pointing that it'll be closer to the back of not in the back of the property, but
Yeah.
away from the front of the property. So they're all going to be.
Yeah, let me explain how the site works.
Sure.
Maybe that helps.
Yeah.
The site, if you drive in the roadway, on the main road, Constitution Avenue, we have a huge grade change, which is different than most retail centers. Most retail centers are built flat as a pancake. There's either, they're all on one level, and you see just an expanse of asphalt parking. What we wanted to do is take advantage of the grades. So you start low at the first level, then there's a second level, and then there's a third level, and then the cinema. And the reason we did that is because this allows us to create, kind of breaks up the center into those sort of different areas. Those buildings are actually two-story buildings. So as you step up, each building has access to a different level of the parking. The idea is to create a walkable community, sort of a walkable path that sort of interconnects all these three different levels. And so you have, in the first level is Market Basket and some of what we would call the service retailers, food, Starbucks, Moe's Southwest, the Asian Hibachi House. We'll have an Indian restaurant joining us in the next 90 days. Then as you get to the second level, we're getting into more the dinner crowd, which will include Tavern on the Square and Great Road Kitchen, as well as some of our junior anchors next to Market Basket. And as you get to the third level, you really get into our entertainment retail. Now that area now is mostly the part that looks like it's under construction. We have just started the first building on that level, which will include Tavern on the Square and the theater. So that's really where we see most of the retailing occurring. It'll be retail throughout the whole center, but we've kind of built it in 3 different levels.
So Diane, this was just before, as Sam mentioned, the restaurant started to open, but it's quite something. People come from everywhere to surrounding towns to go there now.
I think one of the best things that Sam could have done and Littleton could have done is the fact that we're right off of 495 and they go right up to the point. And I think that's a tribute to Sam because he worked very closely with the building department, planning board, and all the town officials to say, what do you want? What does Littleton want? And the townspeople said they don't want big
restaurants for one thing.
Yeah.
You mentioned they specifically
And
could not do that.
he went and he did what the townspeople wanted. They wanted restaurants. They wanted someplace to be able to go to, and not big expensive places either. And I think he did a great job of what he put there.
I had a chance to talk to him a little bit before the interview and after the interview. Prior to coming out here in Littleton, he developed a huge shopping center where the Polaroid facility was off of 117 in Waltham. So that was quite something. The point. The name came from a brainstorming session that he had with his daughter and a couple of her friends. And they thought about it, the point. What are we going to call this new shopping area? We'll call it the Point because it's where history meets technology. It's where the interstate highways cross also. It's quite
interesting. Yeah.
So, looking at the Point, going into the property, was the old Chase Apple Farm part of where they are now? Can you visualize that?
It's just to the left where the tire.
Where the tire is, right about there.
Yeah, that's what Chase used to be. Yeah.
All right. Yep. Well, I had fun. I hope you did.
I did.
I did. We couldn't name every single business, but we highlighted things.
Yeah, we touched with the majority of the places that were interesting and a little bit of history and a little bit of my history that I
and
enjoyed.
It was really cool. We just talked about the Point, and right down the street we're back in the country with 3 farm stands.
Right.
I mean, where else can you find that?
Right.
If that's what you want, and I think we all do. So.
Right. We like to keep the farms. We want to protect the farms.
Yeah.
Keep them here. It's nice to be able to, go there and keep them prosperous because if you keep them prosperous, we're able to, keep them going, and we can. we want to keep those farms here. So you got to shop local.
And we do.
We do. So yeah.
Okay. Well, thank you.
Well, thanks for having me.
Thank you for watching. See you next time.